Hello everybody and welcome to Schooled, our deep dive into the workings of the Beetle Plains School Division. Today my guest is Bob Lepischak, who is the coordinator for the apprenticeship program. Thank you for making time for me today.
Pleasure to be here.
So apprenticeship program, how did this start?
Well, apprenticeship had been part of the Beautiful Plains program for a number of years, but it was formalized about 12 and a half years ago. This is my 13th season working at the apprenticeship program. It was done mainly by the schools, and it was kind of a bit of a piecemeal program. Now they decided that they would kind of have a coordinator that would look after all the schools that are involved in apprenticeship.
Okay, so prior to that, if someone was interested in a trade, they could kind of talk to a teacher, someone who could
Talk
kind of
to the
help them out.
principal, talk to a guidance person, and so on.
And now there's a whole system for if anyone is interested in any of the trades.
Truly, and we still engage the administrators and also the guidance counselors, the people who do industrial arts programming and so on. They're all engaged with us in this program.
So then let's talk about what is an apprenticeship program. How does this work?
Well, apprenticeship is an opportunity for young people who are interested in becoming professional tradespeople to kickstart their careers while they're still in high school. Some of them start as early as grade 10. Most students start when they're in grade 11 or 12. They have to be 16 years of age, have completed all their grade 9 courses, and be students in good standing. Now that doesn't mean they have to be at the top of the class or anything, because there's a variety of levels that students will achieve academically, but they have to be accomplishing to the best of their ability, and they have to bring a work ethic and an attitude to the workplace. Those are very important.
So you want the students who are trying hard.
Exactly. Exactly.
Whatever.
And we have a lot of very academically oriented students who are in this program because they've decided that university is not the route they want to take. They want to become engaged in a trade leading to perhaps eventually running their own business.
Right. That's a big consideration as well. So what sort of trades are we seeing? Is it sort of a lot of students streaming into like one area, or is it really a broad?
No, there's quite a diversity of trades. There are 59 apprenticeable trades in Manitoba that students can apprentice in.
And that comes from the province of Manitoba,
That comes
right?
from the province of Manitoba. 9 of them, in order to be mentored in the trade, you have to have a Red Seal person look after your file.
And Red Seal is?
Red Seal is a person who is completely accredited in the trade. And they are trades that involve either use of chemicals, like, for example, doing hair. You have to have a Red Seal training because you're dealing with chemicals, or dealing with electricity mainly would be trades. There are 9 trades out of 59 that have to have a Red Seal person. The other trades can be supervised, and in many cases people don't get a Red Seal in the trade they're in, especially in rural areas. They have multiple years of experience. We actually administer a designated trainer assessment. It's then juried in Winnipeg by Apprenticeship Manitoba, and once they get a designated trainer number, they can supervise students.
Okay. And so that's the majority we're seeing is probably through that. Through that system,
And out of the trades in our area, we have just over 30 of the 59 trades that students are apprenticing in or have apprenticed in over the last number of years.
Which is actually quite a spectrum. Like what sort of areas are those in?
Oh, a variety of things. Everything from, of course, some of the very standard ones would be like carpentry, cabinet making, welding, heavy-duty mechanics, truck and transport trailer mechanics, agricultural tech people, culinary arts. Those are scattering of some of the trades.
And are a lot of people able to do that close to home, or do they have to sort of travel maybe into Brandon or places like that?
We try to have them placed, if at all possible. We work with the parents and the students, because we encourage the parents and the students to be part of the decision making in terms of where they'd like the student to be apprenticing. We try and go local or regional, but because our main two centers are Carberry and Neepawa, we're both smaller communities, so we don't have the same kind of opportunities as Brandon does. So over the years, Brandon has been one of the places where I've had apprentices working a number of times. I've even had an apprentice in Winnipeg.
Oh, really?
Happened to work out that way.
Yeah.
and Portage la Prairie also. So yeah, in kind of the, usually within a 125 kilometers distance.
And it would depend on specifically what they're doing,
Totally,
I'm sure. Yeah.
totally.
Like, and in town, we'll have a lot of things like the, agricultural businesses,
For sure.
electrician, that
For
sort of
sure.
thing.
Yeah, plumbers
Yeah.
also. A lot of carpentry work, and we found that during and post-pandemic, there's been a real uptake in terms of just projects that people have been doing. So the trades are so important to those
Yeah.
projects that people are taking on.
And something I've been hearing for a long time is that not enough people are going into the trades. Like a lot of retirement is happening, businesses are trying to sell, and not enough people are going in.
Exactly, and that's part of the reason why host businesses will employ an apprentice, because they're looking at the long term. If they're becoming older, they like to have someone with young hands and young feet and a young back to take on some of the tasks. And it's often a segue for young people to be first probably become junior partners in a business and then eventually buy a business. So that's not uncommon with apprenticeship placements.
And that's a lot more uncommon with the university stream, where it's a very different life.
Very.
Yeah.
It is. And I do presentations to all the schools and deal with students in all the schools. I do general presentations to students in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, early in 12. Yeah. And I never discourage students from going to university. This is just another option. If students have made up their mind that university is not the journey they want to take, and they are handy with things, they have a good perception of how to put things together, take things apart. If they like a very varied routine, it's really not routine, it's a very varied life when you're working in a trade every day. So those are the students that seem to be attracted to apprenticeship. And
you mentioned before, in terms of academics, you have some very high achieving academic students who are more interested in the trades.
Extremely high. Yeah. And it's not, I think at one time people felt that trades were sort of the place where if you couldn't do math well, if you couldn't write a paper, that was maybe the place you should look at.
I think that is an assumption that people make.
It still is to some extent, but we have some really, really bright students in the trades over the last number of years, because I've had in the 12 and a half years now that we've been in the program, in the first 12 years, there were just under 300 people that graduated with some apprenticeship credits. Like some of them have the maximum number 8, some will have 5 credits, 6 credits, 4 credits. It depends on how their academic schedule allowed them to work. And also it depends on the employer, because some employers only want people part-time when they're young. So that's a factor.
And of course, these are people who may go on to running their own businesses, which requires a tremendous amount of drive and skill sets. So
I have an interesting case with a young student who is currently working for a Red Seal carpenter. But his objective when he came to see me, he says, I'm very interested in carpentry. I like doing it. I love my industrial arts wood shop. But my objective is to teach woods in an industrial arts setting as a high school teacher. So that was an interesting path that he was taking.
And that's a very hybrid path, isn't it?
It is, for sure.
And we need people who do that.
Totally.
So talk me through a bit of how it actually functions in terms of being a student in this program and balancing your academics with the apprenticeship.
There's a lot of cooperation really that takes place to balance it. There's a lot of cooperation with the staff and with the administration in the schools. They are so important to making this happen for young people, because a young person may want to work afternoons, for example, in grade 11. So principals have often tweaked their timetables to ensure that they get all their academic courses in the early part of the day, and in the afternoon they can work. And the other thing that we've done, which staff are really pivotal in that whole process, is that pretty much all of our students do a 4 or 5 day unpaid practicum. It's like we call it off-site, where they're still insured as a student, but they'll go to a workplace. They have an opportunity to see whether that trade fits their liking. They may hear about it, but until you're right at the chalk face in a trade, you may change
Yeah.
your mind. And it also gives the employer, without any commitment, an opportunity to see whether this young person is the fit
Yeah.
for the position that they may have open. Staff are very integral in that process because they will have students work ahead. They'll ensure they're not missing tests. They'll make sure that they have that 4 or 5 day window so they can actually engage with their employers. So kudos to all the staff members who do a lot of heavy lifting for these young
There's
people.
got to be a lot of balancing to do. Absolutely. I hadn't really thought about. We're still on a 6-day timetable, aren't we, in the schools? Or
We are.
So-
But it's a consistent timetable.
Okay.
Like the mornings are similar. But it also, if there's an opportunity, because students can earn up to 8 credits
Right.
in high school through apprenticeship. So they may not take a course in the afternoon that is sort of a peripheral course that maybe one that they really don't have the same interest. It gives them an opportunity to work those full
Right.
afternoons.
And there are still some core courses that all students need
Absolutely.
to take, right?
Very good point. In order to qualify to be in the apprenticeship program, you have to have, or to get the credits in graduation year, you have to have a mathematics course in grade 11, in grade 12 also. You have to have your English in grade 11 and in grade 12, both your phys ed credits and Canadian history. From there on in, you can infill with up to 8 apprenticeship credits. But
Right.
many of the students, many of the students though that are in apprenticeship graduate with far more credits than the
Yeah.
requirement for the government of Manitoba matriculation or for the Beautiful Plains diploma.
Yeah.
So we have students with 35, 36, 40 credits, 38 credits because they've done their academic credits and then they've also
Yeah.
done apprenticeship.
That is wild.
Yeah.
that is a full timetable, let me tell you. One of the things you mentioned earlier was the core of students were in Neepawa and Carberry, which
Right.
are the 2 big high schools. One of the things I find really interesting is how many colony schools participate in the apprenticeship program. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
All the colony schools are participating or have participated in the program, every one of them. And they, along with agriculture, which colonies are usually associated with, there's not a community that does not have another business that's operating. And those businesses often require tradespeople. Like I'll just use one example. The largest manufacturer in Manitoba of truss rafters and other parts that you require for construction is in our is within our school division, and they have professional carpenters. We have another colony that builds homes that are moved onto place all over Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and they have plumbers, electricians. So they require, and if you're doing jobs like that as a business, you pretty much want to be following the required codes, and these young people then aspire to have their red seal. So there's been an uptake. We have, professional electricians, we have professional plumbers and carpenters and mechanics and welders in the colonies. They do a lot of fabrication too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find a lot of them are apprenticing on colony or apprenticing off colony and then returning to work on the colony?
They apprentice on the colony. They qualify. It's no different than a student from either of the 2 high schools.
Yep.
They qualify for training at the community colleges, either at Assiniboine College, Red River College, or the College of the North, depending on the trade that they're taking. So yes, they attend, and they get the same financial benefits because our students, once you've been in the program or register with the program, along with the wage that you're paid, because you're actually paid while you're in school earning
You're
these
working,
credits,
right?
you're
So,
working.
yeah.
But the provincial and federal government cooperatively also put $14.55 an hour for the first 880 hours of work that an apprentice does in the trade. That allows them to then draw on $12,800 off tuition money. So the parents, the grandparents, or the student doesn't have to take out a student loan. The money is there as soon as they arrive at their course, at their technical training course at any of those 3 academic institutions, the government then forwards money to pay for their tuition while they are doing their program. So the tuition usually runs about $3,200 for each level. Most trades have 4 levels, so that takes up to $12,800 that will cover for over a period of 5 years. It'll cover for all the technical training that the student would engage in.
Because a lot of them would still be working while doing these courses as well. Yeah,
they are. They're only in their technical training program for 8 weeks.
Right.
At a maximum. If you're in culinary arts, it's only 3 times, but it's 12 weeks, longer sessions. But then they come back and they work. They have to reach benchmarks. Like the initial benchmark is 1,800 hours is pretty much the benchmark for most trades, where you have to be engaged in the trade for at least that long before you can go to technical training. Right. And a lot of the employers in our area, I find they'll often keep students at work for maybe 2,000, 2,100 hours, and they kind of focus on areas that they know will be examined, so students can be at the top quarter of the class rather than the middle of the class if they're engaged in their technical training programs.
So all these students who are taking these apprenticeships, they are graduating from their grade 12?
Correct.
Some students who may not have graduated otherwise?
Yeah, I think it is a fact.
In previous years before there was a program?
It probably, because there still is a certain tendency for students, if they find the academic course is really difficult, they may want to shy away and say, I think I'll just work or something.
Yeah.
But this way they have a trade, and the nice thing about it, they have a trade that is recognized anywhere. If they go to any place, they are bringing with them the skill set, and it's also harmonized right across Canada. So if a young lady or young man moves to Alberta or Ontario or the Northwest Territories, they can take this trade ticket, and they do not have to be examined. They simply show up at work, and they have the skills. They have a credential.
And then these students are then going on to post-secondary. They're going on to colleges across the province, really.
And that's a really important part, because the trades are really lifelong learning. The evolution of technology in all the trades is so rampant that it's a matter of life learning that a lot of these students are engaged in. Even after they've completed their Red Seal, I'll just use, John Deere or General Motors or the Ford Motor Company or Case IH. They continually have training programs on during the year. So you engage in lifelong learning if you're in the trade area.
Yeah, for sure. And also, so do a lot of these employers then take on their apprentices as full-time employees later?
Very much of the time. Yeah, like the retention is really very high. Like we'll often track, there are places where there are probably 6 apprentices since the program started that are in the same business, because they're at different levels. Yeah. Some of them have finished the program, others are, starting this year, and others are kind of in second level, third level, or fourth
level. And I
level.
imagine, especially, in the Neepawa area, a lot of these tradespeople are expanding businesses right now. There's a lot of work going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a growing community. I mean, our numbers, just demographically, this has been a boom for a rural community. And so, yes, there are opportunities in this whole area. And we're also close to Brandon. There's a lot of tradespeople in Brandon.
Absolutely.
People can drive back and forth to work. We're not.
Yeah, we're very central here to a lot of other hubs.
For sure.
Even, north, south, east, west.
Exactly.
I don't want to go too far down this road, but we talked briefly beforehand how the apprenticeship program is going to interact with the new vocational school when it comes in.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that'll be I'm excited for the opportunities the vocational school can bring, because it will have some young people probably start specializing in specific trade areas, and they can, I believe, achieve their first level while they're in the vocational school. But the apprenticeship program will pick up, because the student is still going to need an employer and is going to require further training. So the vocational schools will not do 4 levels of training.
No, they can't.
They just don't have the capacity to do that. So it's really, I think, going to be a good fit. And also, when you mentioned sort of our nodal location here, it's a great opportunity for students from surrounding areas to come and engage in the programs that are offered in the vocational setting.
Absolutely,
here.
and I believe they're planning for that in the size and the scale of the school.
Exactly.
But of course, as you said, there are 30 trades that people are apprenticing in. They're
Yes,
certainly not
right
going to be
now.
teaching 30 trades
No.
in the school.
And I think you have to be very selective, because setting up for trade training is a very costly. It's a very costly factor in terms of. So you have to make decisions on what trades realistically that we'll have an intake for and an interest in can we have, and the facilities almost have to be adaptable to maybe making a change after 3 or 4 years, because if you focus only on electricians, pretty soon you saturate the market with electricians or with carpenters or any other trade. Just that is used as an example. So I think the people who are planning this are having to do some really hard thinking on which trades they could
it's a tough thing, and as you said, there's
but exciting.
59 that you can choose from right
and
now.
So exciting though for the area. For sure.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people who are very pleased that this is the type of school that's coming in, which is combined the vocational and the academic school.
And we have the transportation, like we're kind of a transportation connection with a lot of main roads intersecting the Neepawa area, so students can easily move from another area and engage in the program here.
Exactly. One of the things, the big industries we have here is agricultural.
Absolutely.
And this is something I'm sort of excited to ask you about, because we talked about this one beforehand as well. You're sort of working on forming a new sort of trade, I guess, tentatively called sort of a farmcraft trade, which combines the broad actual trained skill set that someone needs to work in an agricultural area. So what does that look like, or what might that look like?
I'll give you a little bit of background on, it's interesting that farm labor is a critical item. Like, we are apparently in Canada now short about 60,000 farm workers. Now there's all various levels, from menial work to very skilled work. But by 2029, that number will probably double. And I heard a podcaster just recently mention that in the United States, the biggest threat to agriculture is lack of labor, lack of skilled labor. And again, we talked about, the technology that's in all trades. Agriculture, the technology is remarkable. So you need people that have a broad variety of skills to be employed on a farm. Yeah. So a bit of background: in 2018, I actually submitted a resolution with. I researched and interviewed a number of farm people who are employing young people, and it was passed unanimously at the CAP meeting, Keystone Agricultural Producers meeting, that they were going to take action on it. I subsequently had a meeting with CAP people, and then there was quite a change in the CAP organization, new people, and it kind of got shelved. Yeah. And then in conversations with our board chairman, Richard Mans, who is from a farm setting, he's a large farm manager in the area, he was very excited about, perhaps revisiting this whole process. So we've worked cooperatively, and we've kind of retooled it, done some research on it, and we're hoping that there'll be a resurgence in interest in this whole area. I've spoken with the former Minister of Agriculture and subsequently with the new Minister of Agriculture, and have talked to him about this. We're hoping that he'll actually visit our community soon. We can talk to him about this, because we're in an area where we service a lot of the farm community with the businesses here. So what farmers want, though, I think, is not to just have an ag tech on the farm. There's so much more to the whole process. They want to have someone who can do a bit of welding, who can perhaps machine a part and get them through the week before they can get a part from wherever it's got to come from. They want someone who can set GPS lines, someone who can just listen to the sound of a machine and know that it maybe needs some maintenance, and do general maintenance on machines. So we looked at an agricultural craft, which is a model similar to what the construction trade has done. Instead of having a cabinet maker or a concrete finisher or a specific carpenter, they actually train people so that they are somewhat competent in a number of the trades in a work area, So they are really very
Yeah.
useful people on the work site. Farm managers would like to be able to do the same thing on their farm site. Have someone who can do a multiplicity of skills. They don't have to be an expert in everything, but they are a good assessor. They can put things together, and it would also encourage young people to take a job at a farm as a tradesperson rather than just being called a farm laborer, because there's no other way.
There's a connotation to that.
There is.
Just,
so unfortunate.
Hoeing a field somewhere.
Exactly. And the other thing that happens if someone starts out at one of the major machinery companies or a welding location, and if they're good, that place will want to keep them, and it's hard to get them to move to a farm situation and work there. Or if they get a taste of benefits, regular hours and so on, and training that's formal, and they also have accreditation, it's hard to have them stay in the farm situation.
Right. So creating an accreditation that is for this broad range of farm skills, I think is really important for the growth of the industry.
And it's exciting because ACC has had an injection of money for their ag program, so maybe this is the right time to be revisiting this whole area of farmcraft. And the other thing that I've heard the term, and I have tried to get information on it, but some places in Western Canada have tried to do some badging where you sort of get, they call it a badging program, where you're skilled in welding or, reading manuals for equipment, setting combines and so on. That probably could be another option, but it would be ideal for us in Manitoba, with agriculture being so important in our economy, to have some type of a formal program for farm craft workers.
I find it just really exciting. I'm so glad that this is something that's happening, and I wish you the best of luck on that for sure.
I think having our board chairman, he's a real champion for agriculture in Manitoba, and I believe he is willing to sit on the labor committee for Keystone Agriculture Producers, which will again give us another opportunity to communicate with people at another level.
Well, believe it or not, we are running short on time. Do you have any last thoughts for me on the program?
Just a couple of things. If parents are talking to the students about their future, not to try and have a conversation about all the options, and not just say, well, maybe you don't want to work with your hands, because if you start in when you're young and you're trained by task really well, there are so many opportunities. You can become a manager, you can become an instructor, you can become a business owner at a very early age and contribute to the economy in our province. So great opportunities for young people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure.
I hope everyone learned a lot. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all again next time.